Can y'all hear us? Now y'all can hear us?
Awesome.
Okay, great.
Hey, Sherry. Hey, Art.
Hi.
Oh, it's good to hear you too.
Chloe's on too.
All right. We're going to call the meeting to order. And looking at our agenda, we don't have any visitors. Is there considerations of additions or changes to the agenda from anybody in the room or out there?
In terms of attendance, I was here
Yeah, sorry.
representing the wonderful township of Chiefs.
Josh is coming in as well. So
Sorry.
Josh, if you're just joining us, we just asked if there's any considerations for additions or changes to the agenda. All right,
Thanks. I
hearing
don't,
none.
Yeah.
Speak up.
Sorry, Josh.
sorry, just saying I had nothing.
Right. So, I don't have a change to the agenda tonight, but I just got two short announcements. One is I'd like to apologize to the group for missing the last meeting. I, a long time ago, made a commitment that I would never miss a board meeting under only two circumstances. One, I was completely unable to make it for illness or whatever reason, and the other because I had a crisis, and I had a crisis at work. So I apologize to you all. I would have been here otherwise. We've got clients all over the country, and I had one in particular that had an issue. The second one is that I'm on the Agricultural Preservation Board for the Orange County Commissioners as well. And if it's the will of the group, I'd like to take about 20 minutes in our next meeting and kind of brief you on the recommendations coming out of my committee to the Board of County Commissioners for the agricultural preservation. We've rewritten the 2009 vintage farmland protection plan. There's been a couple of things that have changed since then. So, and I only want to do it if it's the will of the group. So I'd like to get a show of hands, if you want to hear it, or we could vote, through email. But I don't want to give something that is not, the group doesn't want to hear.
Does that also touch on the rural buffer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would be very helpful to have that because the county is doing their land use plan update right now, and it would be very beneficial to include that as the county does finish, hopefully progress in that planning update.
Cool. Well, I'd love for you to hear what we've been doing. We'd like to think it's going to be impactful. Like to think.
And to give you a precursor, from my understanding of the land use plan update, the conservation of rural Orange County is a big thing. So there's a lot of land use codes that are going on that is maybe geared towards the conservation while development is occurring, while residential development and commercial development is occurring, how to ensure conservation throughout the process.
Cool. We'll check on that through email.
And also, just a suggestion, I'm personally interested, but we could also do it like as towards the end of the meeting, so if anyone wasn't interested, they could excuse themselves.
Good thought.
If that would work.
Like an information item?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm interested.
Okay.
I want to be there.
Great suggestion. Thank you very much. Good idea. Next, item on the agenda would be the approval of our minutes meeting from January 20th, assuming there's no public comments.
There are no comments.
Okay,
I wasn't here.
neither was I. Coming from the floor or out there in Teams land, anybody want to comment? Are there any changes to make to the minutes?
Eric, you were here, not here, and not here.
Art, if you're talking, we can't hear you, buddy. You're on mute.
Hey, hearing nothing else, I move to accept.
Thank you.
Second that with the changes that we discussed on attendance.
Yes.
And did we have a second?
Great.
Okay, cool. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All opposed? The motion passes.
I have a brief presentation on the next item is the Eflin Buckler Mebane Access Management Plan. Back mid last year, I think July of last year, I'd given you a quick update on this. Requesting your authorization to update and amend the plan update because the US 70 corridor study was approved. We're in the home stretch of the transportation multimodal plan, finishing the safe rate school plan. Those things were done. And there's been a lot of development that had occurred in this area and wanting to request your approval. I think the decision back then was consider the plan itself that was adopted and the traffic that was projected for that area and what is the current projection based on the current approvals and see if where we are with the threshold to see if the plan needed to be updated. Even though we have plans that are approved and approved the projects in that area, but the development and the impact of it. So I'm going to give you a brief presentation and what I have put together to compare, give you feedback on that analysis. In front of your screen and on the online is this brief slide.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt just a second? Can you make this a full screen so it's hard to see it and yeah, there, thank you.
Yep. In the 2019 Eflin Buckler Amendment Access Management Plan, this was done by Volkert. They divided the area, the planning study area, into different development areas called pods. Each of these pods would generate development, and that development would have a traffic impact, hence basically a TIA for this area based on individual pods. And these are 18 pods that was projected plan for that area when this plan was done, and the traffic impact. On the left side, you see the daily traffic that was projected based on those development of those 18 pods. And on the right side is the AM and PM peak generated from those development of those pods. Okay, this is a Volcker study that was done, and because of that development, because of this impact, roads were recommended for improvements, widenings, and modernizations, and turn lanes, and all these things that you see in the plan. And that projected of 175,000, if this whole area was developed, those 18 pods were fully developed with their conservation, open space, restrictions, and zoning and land use by right developments, not really rezonings and stuff. They would generate over 175,000 additional vehicles, average annual daily traffic within that, just the planning area itself.
Can you go back one slide? I just wanted to see, pod 4.
Yeah.
Is the access to that off West 10 Road?
And Buckhorn.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
an access on Buckhorn. There's an access on West 10. There's two different accesses. It's the flea market, and right now it's a little wooded area.
Is that an existing access on I-40, or is it a proposed one where that right of way is busted up?
The I-40 doesn't have any access. Buckhorn Road is the only access off of I-40, and Mount Willing is the only other interchange off of I-40.
Okay,
I-40 doesn't allow immediate access because it's just interchanges.
oh, that must be a rest area or something on I-40 where?
Yeah, it's
That's
hole
the
that you
way
see in the middle,
station.
That's the way station.
Oh, is it? Okay,
That's the empty little hole that you see between 4 and 8.
yeah,
That's the way station.
of course it is. Now that I can put it
Yeah.
in perspective, thank you.
Since then, the colored area that you see on the top half of the map is the Mebane growth area. These are the things that have been approved by the town of Mebane and annexed into Mebane. All the colored purple hatches, that's in the town of Mebane that's been expanded in Orange County, having increased development. These are the so-called pods that are now approved for development. I think some of them have gone through shovel ready last week and had groundbreaking ceremonies and things like that. So there's been a lot of progress in this area. And on the bottom half, you see is the Orange County, is that little orange dot that you see on the right side. That's Eflin Industrial.
Orange dot.
There's an orange dot on the right side at the bottom.
Oh, my gosh.
That's the Orange County approval. That's not in the Mebane, that's an Orange County approval for Eflin Industrial. So that's been approved and going forward through their thing. Of what you just saw and what is approved for development, what you see in front of you is the traffic that's being generated of all that approval right now. 25,000 additional vehicles within the planning area. The average annual daily traffic, AM is around 3,000, PM is around 3,000. And on the right side is a notice of the various different development that's been approved, like light industrial, warehouses, intermodal truck terminal. And we used, and both the TIAs that are done for this development and my way of referencing checking is the Institute of Traffic Engineering, trip generation, to check what the engineering firms to say for their TIAs compared to what the ITE, which basically using the same thing, vetting the information. So you only see 25,000, 26,000 generated. The plan itself recommended, it projected 175,000 projected. So we're not anywhere near close through what is, if this area was fully developed. I mean, the only thing that's been approved beyond this is the 70 corridor study and the Safe Area School Plan, because Gravely Middle School is in this area. And by the way, there's another school in this area too. The purple area on the right side you see near Meadows is the new charter school. The Affluent Industrial that was supposed to be the charter school in Lawrence is now here.
How does the 25,000 on those particular tracks compare with the projection overall?
We're very short. The projection is if this full area was developed, it would have generated over 175,000 trips. We're only at 26,000 right now.
But in that.
There's still a lot more areas to be built.
Bucky's not happening is a big chunk of that.
Whatever that number was. What fraction of that are these lots?
That I'll have to get back to you, and
No worries.
I haven't done the full math of the whole thing. I just compared what is projected, what the traffic generate right now. I haven't compared the percentage of the developed areas yet.
It's got no Bucky's, which is now over all the way into Alamance, and it doesn't have the second trucking related thing that was going to be beside the Bucky's. It's now all the way over in Alamance.
Can you turn the volume up?
Another intersection
On
towards
your computer,
Greensboro.
should turn the volume up overall.
I'm at
Oh,
Matt.
you're at 100. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, you're right. Bucky's did go to Alamance County, but the Bucky's that was originally proposed in Orange County is that orange dot that you see. That's where Bucky's was originally proposed, but now that's by right affluent industrial. It's a conditional zoning permit that steel distribution center that's going there.
Can I ask not a question, but just a comment about going forward as you get into this? Obviously, a lot of the vehicles are going to be trucks because
Yes.
of the nature of that. So I think it's important to, when we think about whatever happens over there, that you're going to have a whole lot more trucks, both on 85, 40, and also 70. So I think as we look at the plan, those are some things to make sure that we are tracking or paying attention to, because that would perhaps change some of the planning, the actual transportation planning.
Absolutely, because everything that you see on this list that's been approved is distribution, warehouses and industrial areas. That's basically truck traffic. So the abstract request for approval to go to the scope of work, but right now I would not be seeking that since we're not near the threshold. But I'll keep monitoring, keeping an eye, and I'll come back to you later with a percentage of the area that's been developed versus what was projected.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any questions, concerns on this item? There's no longer requested action. And this was my analysis that was done yesterday.
So I'm sorry, this is Sherry again, following up on that. So
Yes, ma'am.
this is already the plan is already in process
Yes,
as we've
yes.
seen it. And
Yes.
so is there a way then to raise that issue of the trucks as part of the planning process? Because either making sure that ATA, American Trucking Association, is one of the folks for the public engagement, or I just think that it's that is an important component to that maybe was not included or addressed in the initial scope of work, but I think that it warrants some attention beyond just kind of what the normal scope is.
Yes, I will go back and just to reiterate, and Shay, that's a very good point. The original plan only took the pods and the development of the areas as they are. Not, I mean, like if an area was already zoned commercial, it would expecting a shopping center or some commercial going on. If it was zoned residential, it was accepting it was anticipating a subdivision going on. A lot of these areas have been rezoned. That rezoning changes the makeup. And that is something I would need to go back and review how much of this area was rezoned to industrial and warehouse because freight traffic wasn't that much of a component in the original plan update. And so I will need to go back and review the plan and see about the freight going forward. Because when only freight considered is US 70 was considered a regional freight corridor. US 70 and I-40. West 10 wasn't considered a freight corridor, but with all this development, I may be able to see if it can be done as a freight corridor. Josh
I-
and Art.
Yeah, I guess this was done around the same time that the Eflin-Buckhorn economic development area was being done as well, which did anticipate these types of uses and this type of truck usage, right?
Well, there was the original. I think I need to present you the history of the planning process. There was an original small area plan that took this area into consideration. That was when there was a coordination between Orange County and Mebane and Hillsborough. So there was a small area plan. The economic development area came later, and then we did an update on the 2019 with combining the Volcker study, and the Volcker study was supposed to be an update from the small area plan, and the 2019 plan was simply taking the Volcker and the access management plan that was done previously and making it together as an update.
Yeah, I think I understand that, and I understand that, this has been an area that's been planned for, and this transportation study
Yeah.
comes from 2019. But I think it reflects the development that we've seen was reflected in plans that were passed before 2019, correct?
Right.
Yeah, so I think we anticipated industrial types of development out here, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they were considered in the land use plan back then, it was considered a transitional area.
I guess the other thing on the existing conditions report, I'd be interested, did you take a look at how the network has generally developed compared to what the plan stated on things like curb and gutter and sidewalk and all that?
Uh-huh. One thing the plan did take into consideration when they made recommendations, when it made recommendations for highways and road improvements, whether adding a turn lane, it took each of anytime there was a road improvement project, I think that you'll see in the plan two different cross sections. A cross section one, if it stayed rural, if it was adding a turn lane, it would be a curb and gutter. Crap, I lost the screen. But then it also said if it was going to become an urban area, if it was going to be annexed to Mebane or anything like that, it would have a curb and gutter. So there was two cross sections for every road improvement, a rural version and an urban version, one with curb and gutter, one without curb and gutter, using NCDOT cross sections.
Okay, I'd be interested, especially in the parts that I got annexed in the
Let me get this back
Mebane, if that kind of been followed up on. I think that's more in Mebane's jurisdiction than that.
Please do.
Question, it looks like that projection that we had on the screen was sort of the revised plan after the rezoning. So I would assume car traffic would go down, we'd have, I guess the sheer number would go down because we'd have fewer cars, more trailers on it. Does that make any difference, like in the study? What, like if they go by the number of vehicles, it looks like my guess would be on the industrial zone areas that would drop off, which is what we're seeing for the counts, right? It's a fairly low count. Does that impact anything? Is there anything we really need to worry about?
Hold that thought for a second. Hey, Nish, is there any way on that device to turn the volume up in the room? I don't know about y'all, but all the places that I travel to, this is seamless.
Yes. The reason here, it's always painful.
No, it's unpredictable, inconsistent.
I'm going to get this thing moved to it. No, I haven't really meant. I had to find a different venue to do this because this is not working again.
It's just unacceptable.
Yeah. Can you also hear us online?
No fault of yours.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
And we can't hear y'all now. What the?
So if you can't hear me at all,
I can hear you.
but they can't hear me in the room.
Oh,
I wonder if I'm the only one who
Oh.
heard what you just said.
Can you hear us?
Sounds like
Yeah, I
we
can
can
hear
y'all.
you.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we
We
can
can
hear
hear
you
you.
and we can hear each other.
Can you hear us?
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. We can't hear y'all. Can y'all hear them? No. Okay.
Barely.
Barely. And this is not working either. To answer your question regarding the traffic in different modes, things like that, right now, the study itself is only considering AADT, average annual daily traffic, and AADT doesn't consider the mode. It just says it's the amount of vehicles that's going to be generated. It doesn't distinguish that. There is a separate AADTT, average annual daily truck traffic. That's a separate analysis. I mean, we only did that on US 70 when the US 70 corridor study was done. They said this percentage of this segment would have this much truck, and of that truck, this much would be heavy truck and light truck. So that was a US 70 corridor study that had that freight analysis in there, but not the entire study area, that level of a detailed analysis.
Change anything in this study.
Not really. I mean, the average AADT is supposed to consider within that thing is a percentage of truck is supposed to be within it.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you, Art.
yeah.
Oh, great. This is important work, in part because we did anticipate, I remember discussions meeting down in that room back in the middle of the last decade about heavy industrial use, truck use out in that part of the county that was anticipated for a lot of industrial development. And it is the only time, I think that's why this is important, that we've ever had a large number of concerned citizens show up for an OUTBoard meeting in all those many years that I've been on the OUTBoard. And they pretty well fill that room y'all are in right now with their concerns about big vehicles being on their road out that way. So it is good that we're looking back on this. I think the action actually should be of praise to approve the 2019 EBM AMP scope of work update rather than just scope of work. And I think the timeline probably is 2025 rather than 2024, as appears on the project overview.
So what are you recommending? Do we need to go back and reassess some of the original plan, or do we?
I'm saying that the action items phrased wrong. It should be approve the 2019 scope of work update instead of improve the 2019 scope of work. Because it's actually about the update. And then 2 pages later under project overview, it has the timeline as March, December 2024. I think that's supposed to be 2025.
Right.
Mhm.
The scope of work has 2024 in it. The scope of work needs to, I need to change it to 2025 if it's authorized to do the review and update the process. The action item that was requested in the abstract is also saying the scope of work on the 2019 access management plan. This is not a 2019 access management plan. This is a 2024 access management plan scope of work.
Yeah, it's an update.
Yeah. So I'll make those small changes to the agenda material and stuff like that. But in terms of reviewing, I just keep a monitoring of it, put together some more further review of this material and this analysis of this area, probably do a public engagement to see what the public thinks in that area. Because I think we did a public engagement at Gravely Middle School during this planning process, and we use a gym, and that gym involved a lot of DOT and everybody. So we'll probably do another public engagement to see what the public thinks of now that all this development has been approved and growth going on, if there's any more concern to revisit this plan.
Is that our charge or your charge to have the public engagement?
It's just, we have an Orange County Public Involvement Plan itself, the Department Specific Public Involvement Plan.
Okay.
And it would be good to reassess the situation and just see what the public thinks of this area and then all the issues that have gone on, and if there is a need to revisit and update this plan.
Sounds good.
This is part
Can
of
you send
my
a
due
copy of
diligence
this
of doing
plan
research.
out?
Yes,
Nish, can
Josh?
you send a copy of this document out? Because I've never seen it before till this
Yeah,
meeting.
I'll send everybody the link of the whole plan. It's on our
Okay.
website.
Okay.
I guess I understood the existing conditions analysis kind of found that there was not really a need to reassess the plan, and we did not need to make a whole new scope of work to reassess the plan. Is that wrong?
Yeah, right now it's just doing due diligence research. Right now, I'm not asking for the approval of the scope of work right now.
So no
Okay.
action required right now.
No action required right now. I'll just continue doing my research on this area.
Right.
Okay, if we move on to the next item, which is the Safe
Mhm.
Routes to School Steering Committee.
An update for everybody in this, now that the Safe Routes School Plan has been adopted, the Board of Education has received the plan. It has not been adopted by the Board of Education. They welcomed and received it. They appreciate the being included in this process. So it's now time to go through implementing this plan. And one of the recommendations that came out of the plan is establishing a steering committee. I would like to get your feedback on what do you think the steering committee would be involved? Who would it include? I think it's going to include the staff, administration of the school. It's going to include parents, youth delegate, Chloe, or anybody else that youth wants to be involved in this process to formulate this, create the steering committee and start working together in implementing and finding ways to monitor and update this plan going forward. It's going to be a process, I understand. So any feedback that you may have and any comments you may have and trying to get this together, I'll also need to talk to the school board and school administration to get their buy-in and get their participation in this now that they've welcomed this report and they have a bond to go with it.
Mission only, not an action item.
So right now, it's just the
Nope.
action. And right now, any feedback that you have now or later in the next few weeks, if you have any comments, feedback, I welcome it now or later.
I have a question. And I don't know the school system here very well. This is Sherry, sorry. But where I used to live and be involved in the schools, they had pretty active PTAs, parent teachers associations. I'm not sure if they have them here and what they call them. But from an outreach perspective, has the OUTBoard ever considered doing a short presentation to one of those meetings of the PTAs? First of all, if they have them, and then doing a presentation of this.
Hey, was that Sherry?
Yeah, that was me.
Hey, Sherry, hold on a second. Nish walked across the room to try to wake up the overhead projector and system again so we can hear you.
Right.
To answer, Sherry asked a question about schools and having their PTAs. Right, my understanding right now, I think there's only 2 PTAs in Orange County. There's only 2 schools with a PTA. I haven't seen any list of any others. So if there's a list, please, I need a list to start contacting them because I know Cedar Ridge and I think Eflin. So if there's any other PTAs, Orange,
Schools. They all have PTAs,
they all have PTAs? Okay.
but we can find, that would be a good contact for getting parents for this committee. Because
Right.
one of the things about the committee is every school should be represented.
Yeah.
Because the needs are so different.
Right, but I was just thinking that there are some PTAs that are real active and there's some that are just kind of, they just kind of meet to have a fundraiser. So the ones that are active it might be worth having some very short presentation about the safe routes to school so that they can understand what's going on. And yes, they might be able to say, okay, well, this person is really interested in this topic. Maybe that person should be on the steering committee.
So yes, one thing I will do is try to contact each of the PTAs and get at least some representation by the parents of each of the schools to be part of this steering committee.
Yeah, that's one of the peculiarities of having 2 school systems is most of the PTA activity is down in the Chapel Hill Carrboro school systems, not so much out in the county.
Yeah, that is difficult, and we're staying away from the Chapel Hill, Cedar Ridge. They have their own plan. I think Chloe and Josh had a comment. Josh?
Sorry, that was just me not lowering my hand.
Oh, okay. Oh, Chloe didn't. Okay. So
Yeah.
right now, the only comments that I have right now is try to contact each of the PTAs to see about presenting before them, getting them involved in this process, seeing if I can find some parents in each of the schools to participate in the steering committee. If not the parent, then the youth.
I'd warn you not to let it get too elephantine. In this county, it's really easy in quest for fairness and representation to end up with a group that's so large it's not able to do anything.
I will be sure that throughout my outreach to them is I clarify expectations. If they're expecting sidewalks and bike lanes, I'm gonna have to make sure that they understand that's a different elephant to hunt.
So just for clarification, the proposal calls, the plan calls for an SRTS champion. I presume that's you at this point in time?
I can't be a champion. I have to be unbiased. I have to be the one trying to help get this thing done. It has to be a local rep. When it comes to champions, it has to be a public person. Nobody here, y'all are sitting on the board. Y'all are welcome to be champions. I can't ask y'all to be champions. Y'all are welcome to champion this thing and find somebody who wants to be really involved in this process. If y'all know of a champion, great, welcome. If y'all want to be champions yourselves, that's a different work on your plate. But I welcome it. Really appreciate any help that I can get. So hopefully in the next couple of months, I'll try to get some context together, get some stakeholders together to say, okay, these people are interested, and here's a potential vague draft of a steering committee structure. I won't tell you when I can do that, but I can start at least getting some of the work, giving y'all an introduction to this thing, and having gotten some feedback right now. So if y'all have more feedback on this, please send that to me.
So two things that really stood out to me. One, I just briefly scanned through the recommendations. There were 57 of them that were ranked as high priority.
Yes.
Of those, there were 37 that contained the word construct.
Yes.
So you just said it's not about building sidewalks. A lot of it's about building sidewalks.
That's the infrastructure piece. The infrastructure piece itself is those physical pieces.
Okay.
But the State Red School program itself has an educational and implementation committee piece and structure piece. Having created the structure is one thing, maintaining it, monitoring it, and keeping it in front of everybody and championing it. I don't want this plan to sit on a shelf.
Yeah, and that's my point, is it's actually a pretty ambitious plan. And it's gonna require some muscle.
Yeah.
The PTA for sure, but school administrators. So when this plan was unveiled, we had revelation that very few kids were walking to school, and that some schools were actively discouraging them from walking to school. And so there's some cultural things that are gonna have to be mitigated as well, or
Right.
agreed upon.
Right.
So it's a big deal.
And I really appreciate everybody's help in getting this thing done and having that feedback and getting this plan done that involves all 13 schools and helping getting the school board involved, getting them to receive it, and actually helping champion this thing and getting a youth delegate on board and helping a youth on here to help participate to this. Thank you, Chloe, for helping out. One good thing that's also going to come out of this that's also been brought to my attention last week is it got selected to be presented at the NCAMPO conference this year. So I'll be presenting this one along with the transportation multimodal plan. I just threw the name in the hat. I didn't think it would get selected, but it did. So now I'm here. So hopefully it'll get more attention to it. I know you got something. I think you're waiting to say something.
So we know, I mean, I'm thinking of the people who are going to champion this are going to be parents.
Yes.
Because the school administrators are so busy with just what goes on their campuses already that they're like, as long as they get here, I don't care how they get. I mean, it's just not a priority.
And the same thing with yeah.
But there are neighborhoods like Fairview. I've talked with, I know a mom who lives in Fairview who's really realizes that her kids should be able to walk from there to Orange High and Orange Middle, but for this little tiny piece that they need to get through. And so those, I think, are the kind of people who are going to really keep this at the forefront.
If you give me those names and contact, I'm more than happy to reach out to them. More to come on this as it progresses.
Everybody good if we move on to the next item?
Any other questions, concerns?
Is there a motion that's needed?
No, I just needed feedback right now, letting y'all know this has been going in process and welcoming all comments and concerns. If you have more, email them to me and I'll be presenting this again to y'all in a month or two as I get something more developed along it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
The next item in front of you is the non-STIP. I've done my best to clean up this list. I think last time y'all saw this list, it was multiple pages of rings of stuff. I've cleaned it up. The US 70 stuff is now in the US 70 plan, 54 is in the 54 plan, things that are in the STIP. We don't know what's going on with the STIP right now. Right now, I'm reviewing 3 different STIPs, the currently adopted one that's being amended, the draft one that just came out last week, and we're preparing for spot 8 for the new STIP. So I have 3 different STIPs to review. And I'm about to, yeah, in a month or two, I'll be coming back with prioritization of projects for spot 8 and so submission selection. So that's another to-do list of mine. So this is a small cleaned up list. DOT, we're coordinating with DOT regarding Orange Grove Road. We're working with DOT on, there's a lot of spot safety projects all across the Orange County right now. There's 4-way stops. DOT is having a strong push for getting a lot of 4-way stops as safety improvement. There's some resurfacing going on in a couple of streets that are also including center lane reflectors. Right now, I'm working with DOT, meeting with Wright Archer and his deputy director for trying to create a countywide sidewalk maintenance agreement and a municipal agreement to see about putting together a program of development review processes and our UDO updates and working with them, trying to get that done. So there's a lot of things in the fire, locally administrative processes that we're trying to do in anticipation of uncertainties in the federal government in the future, what's going to hold in the next few years, and then trying to do as much locally as possible.
This is Sherry, just a question related to that. I don't know how much the Inflation Reduction Act was impounded, basically, by the current administration. Has NCDOT talked about what their expectations are for any funding pullbacks?
DOT is right now, DOT, FTA, FHWA, every acronym soup agency out there is telling us obligate projects and funds immediately. So we're working with our MPO partners, RPO partners, trying to get as many projects obligated as in agreements, contracts, things that are ironclad, not just simply programmed in a STIP, not just simply saying, okay, here's the possibility of getting funds, but actually getting contracts, agreements, and obligation authorities to say these funds are now set aside for Orange County. So we'll work with MPO to obligate a lot of 5307 passed from 2020 to 2024, and something in BGMPO to do the same thing, trying to obligate funds. There's a couple of CMAQ funds. There's like 10 STIP projects for transit that we're working on trying to get obligated. So we've been under the direction of our partners to obligate and tie these funds to specific agencies and governments before they are lost. Right now, we don't know when the pen is going to be of scratching out all these things, and that, yes, it is uncertain. So we're doing our best to work with our partners to get these funds and projects obligated.
And they think that the obligation will not be stricken out by Musk's pen. I mean,
This is mainly to get the current IIJA projects funding done. We don't know about the future. I mean, just to give you an idea, just to give you an example, the RAISE grant. We're right now working with WSP to create a RAISE grant package for the Regional Multi-Mobility Hub. We're under the assumption that because the IIJA, the Efficient Investment Jobs Act, and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill has 2 more years to go, we're trying to get a RAISE grant package under the assumption that the RAISE grant will continue. If it goes back and reverts back to the build grant, that's still the same grant, it's just renamed. So we're working to get that thing going so that when we do a NOFO in January or February, when the NOFO, the notice of funding opportunity comes out, we're able to put in the grant application to get those projects in the future year obligated. I mean, I think Chapel Hill Transit is trying to do the same thing with their BRT, because right now it has federal allocation appropriation tied to it. So we'll see how that goes through. So we're doing our best to get things, our current bill money tied, anticipated the next 2 years tied. Beyond the 2 years, we don't know. Because it would require the Congress and the administration to pass a new law, a new transportation authorization bill with new funding and new authorization. Otherwise, I don't know if they're going to do any continuing authorization, continuing resolutions, because they're trying to reduce federal spending.
Right. So there's no clean energy money out there because that's what they're
Yeah.
they were digging on.
Yeah, right now, that's a different problem. I think clean energy and EV and the infrastructure and the climate change and those issues, that funding, I think that I had to look into that, research that right now, because knowing the research, the stuff that I've read and seen, they're more into gas, oil, and not the EV. So I'll have to look back into that and see what's going on with the new spending, even though Tesla's EV. I don't know how that makes sense, but
Tesla stock is way down. What was that?
that's it. There's your answer right there.
Tesla stock is way down.
But SpaceX is looking really bright.
Elon lost a lot of money.
Okay.
Darn it. Okay.
So again, we'll do our best, Sherry, and if I hear more, if I get some more information, I'll be keeping y'all updated and informed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nish.
Thank you.
That concludes our,
In your packet is your DOT updates, Sensi DOT updates. Everything is still on schedule. DOT is administering and running those projects.
Like a quiz question.
I'll look into that because I know they're supposed to be redoing the west. The east one is done. The east one is done. The one east of Hillsborough, the US 70 bridge east of Hillsborough, that's complete. There's another bridge west of Hillsborough. There's one that goes over a creek. There's a creek, River Creek over in the west of Hillsborough, I think by the US 70 connector area. That creek is good. That's being replaced. That's being re-engineered. And we've been telling them there's also wildlife and then there's a wildlife crossing in that area, so be careful. Those, yeah.
That's the one downhill
That's on
from the
Dimmick Mill
DMV.
Road, isn't it?
Yeah, near that area. Yeah,
It's on Dimmick Mill Road.
that's it.
We're all set. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, second?
Don't need one.
We're good.
All in favor,
Thank
say
you,
aye.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. A lot.